You look at Philly.
No one in the city can figure out what exactly they're doing. They fly by the seat of their pants.
KJZ, Alan Hahn, Mike Tannenbaum, hanging out with Jay Will, ESPN Radio. Now, I want to set this up the right way because we want to give people the opportunity to be part of this conversation and talk to Mike Tannenbaum and ask him questions too. So we're going to play Ask the GM in, let's do the math, in about 15 minutes, right?
Ooh.
So 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. Get in line now while you can so you can ask the GM the question.
I want to hear some hard, tough questions from Mike T. We need some real questions. Don't call him with the fluff questions.
Hey, don't give me a fantasy football question.
Yeah, I want the real stuff,
right?
guys. Call him with the heat.
Bring the heat. I like that.
Hey, Jay Will, I get that from you every Monday morning. I feel like I get the heat every Monday morning from you guys.
You always bring the heat, Mike T.
Well,
that's
again,
why.
When you've been a GM in the NFL, you understand heat. You've been on the hot seat many times. That's just how it is. That's that life. So anyway, that's coming up. But right now, we got Straight Talk brought by Straight Talk Wireless. You know what we're going to do right now, Mike Tannenbaum? We're going to grade the trade. Are you ready to do this?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's go. Well, the 49ers-Dolphins trade, obviously the biggest news from Friday. So if you're grading that trade for each team, what would you give the Niners and what would you give the Dolphins?
Yeah, well, starting from the Dolphins standpoint, I give them a perfect score. I give them an A+. They really maximize value. They moved back 9 spots, guys, and picked up 2 future first-round picks and a future third-round pick. You can't do any better than that just from a standpoint that you're still in the premium part of the draft. So to go from 3 to 12 is really remarkable. And from a 49er standpoint, I'm giving them a B-, and here's why. We've really touched on it, Jay, Will, and Allen, which is you're moving up. You have a really good team. They deserve a ton of credit for that. But the reason they get a B- is there's still some incomplete parts of the evaluation from spending time with Mac Jones, spending time with Justin Fields. So unless an Aaron Rodgers or something else comes out of the blue, Russell Wilson isn't going to be traded from Seattle to San Francisco. I think they could have waited. I think they could have solidified more of their planning and still had plenty of time to make the trade. Miami would not have made that trade with another team without circling back to them. So I think it's a good trade. I think it could have been executed a little bit better.
Yeah, I agree with Mike T on this. I think Miami they got incredible amounts of assets for that pick, and that's exactly what you want. We can talk about the latter part of their trade afterwards. And then for the 49ers, I just go back to this for Mike T. If you have a guy pegged, you know exactly what you want to achieve with the third pick. Is that guy going to be an heir apparent? I still think you could have gotten Mac Jones later. There's something smells fishy about that to me.
Jay is not buying.
I'm not buying into it, Mike T. It smells fishy to me, knowing how John Lynch has been able to misdirect us before. There's a history there with him in that.
All right, we'll move on. And this is also the one other thing, if I could add, from the Dolphins' perspective, it's also basically saying, yeah, Tua is our guy.
Exactly.
Tua is our guy.
We're locked into Tua.
Is that the best decision? We might have to adjust this grade down the road, but we'll see. But there was another part to this deal. Go ahead, Mike.
Wait, Alan, one thing. I think there's a little scar tissue here between Duke and Stanford. Jay Will, the show's about 10 minutes old, has taken multiple shots at John Lynch. I think there's some Duke-Stanford scar tissue going on here.
I'm not taking shots. I'm just saying John Lynch always has tricks up his sleeve. I'm just watching him. That's all.
Jay has trust issues. Pretty clear.
Yes.
Pretty clear there.
Drake and I are close. Trust issues, yes.
So in the second part of the day, which, again, this is the one where you just was like, wait a minute, what? And that is that the Dolphins, after making this trade to 12, said, let's get back into the top 10. They make a deal with the Eagles. They move to 6 now. So let's go first with the Eagles, them making that deal to move out of 6. How do we grade this?
Yeah, Alan, really solid grade. I give them a B. I really like this trade for them because a couple of things. At 12, they're going to get a really, really good football player. They actually swap a 4th and a 5, but that's sort of inconsequential. They got a first-round pick next year, so assuming Carson Wentz plays 75% or more of the snaps in Indianapolis, the Philadelphia Eagles were going to have 3 number 1 picks next year. That's an incredible position to be in. As a GM, one time we had 4 first-round picks back at the Jets. When you're in a position of strength like that, you have unbelievable flexibility for unforeseen opportunities, so they're really in a good position. And the same Miami Dolphins that we just gave an A+ to, we're going to give them a C-, and I think we're being generous. It could be actually below that. And here's why, guys. You're sitting with the 12th pick. you move up to 6, and basically you give up 2 first-round picks. And if you think about that, the Buffalo Bills gave up less with the Minnesota Vikings a year ago to get Stephon Diggs. So if you're Miami, you're all in on Tua. Great decision, agree with it. You believed him in a year ago, stay with him. But if you have 2 first-round picks, you could call up the Seattle Seahawks and say, hey, DK Metcalf, great young player, no guesswork, no projections. Seattle doesn't have a 1 for the next couple of years. They're dying for good young talent. I'm sure they would take 2 1s for DK Metcalf. You could call up the New Orleans Saints, team that has a lot of cap problems, say, hey, you know what? We're going to give you this year's 12th pick. We're going to give you next year's 1 for Michael Thomas. I'm sure the Saints would say for 2 1s, we're going to do it. So when you look at it in that sort of context, I think Miami just rushed to a decision to say, hey, we're going to get Kyle Pitts or Jamar Chase at 6, which unless something changes, that's going to be a great player, but it's still a projection. And why not take the certainty of a frontline superstar in either Michael Thomas, DK Metcalf? You probably could call Arizona for DeAndre Hopkins for 2 1s. Again, when you think about what Buffalo paid to get Stephon Diggs a year ago from Minnesota, that's why I think they paid an enormous premium that wasn't necessary.
I'm with Mike on this one, too. I feel like it was almost a missed opportunity by Miami. And I know that Miami loves Kyle Pitts. I mean, look, his times in which he runs are like a wide receiver. The things he can do from the tight end position is absolutely incredible. I know they want to surround Tua with the pieces. Even schematically, they're changing schemes this year for him offensively. But I feel like they could have gotten more from that.
I don't know. I just like when you collect picks, you got to use them, and I think that's what they did here. All right, moving on. So the team that did not make a trade, let's grade them anyway because they're at 2, the Jets, and clearly, some way, somehow, the Jets might have told the Niners, no, we're all set. We don't want to accept that offer. I know, Mike, you've referenced that. So if we were grading the Jets for not making a move, what would you give them?
Well, I think it bears knowing that Joe Douglas went to the University of Richmond, so I'm sure Jay will be more comfortable with this decision than the aforementioned John.
Always about the rivalry.
But I give them an A-. I think it's about chasing greatness. And if you're in the AFC East, you're chasing Josh Allen. For years, you were chasing Tom Brady. Josh Allen is the standard. Zach Wilson, in my opinion, has a higher ceiling than Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, to me, is a B. He is Kirk Cousins. He is a solid NFL player. Zach Wilson has a chance to be great. I really like the fact that they stayed there. They didn't take an opportunity to maybe get all these extra picks, move out of the second spot. So when you're chasing greatness, you want to get the best player you can. I think they deserve an A- because of it.
Look, if Zach Wilson is your guy, then Zach Wilson is your guy. There's nothing wrong with just being patient here for a minute. If a team was willing to give up that many assets for the 3rd pick in the draft, imagine if Zach Wilson continues to build up. And say, for instance, you do decide that Sam Darnold is your guy at the end of the day. What are teams willing to give up for Zach Wilson? They give that much for the 3rd pick? What are they willing to give for Zach Wilson?
Too. Maybe show a little patience. Maybe just wait out the market a little more and see how desperate a team like Carolina might get or something else. You're right. But it also, I kind of, again, as a Jets fan, Mike, I do also feel what you're saying as well. Chasing greatness is something that is probably written on the wall in Florham Park these days. It's just that's what you've been doing with Tom Brady, and you don't want to have to do the same thing now with Josh Allen, how good he's been playing. But those are grades. I'll take an A- for the Jets. It was very interesting that the Dolphins get an A+ and then get a C-, but as well explained by Mike Tannenbaum. That is Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. No contract, no compromise. All right, off of this, we have a million questions, don't we? I know you do. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. We will play Ask the GM Anything coming up next. Also, is Russell Wilson the Week 1 QB1 for the Seahawks? We'll ask Mike about that as well. After Jay has this from Indeed.
Connoisseur of case management or guru of global sales? Whoever you're looking to hire, you can find them all at Indeed. Sponsor a job post and Indeed's Instant Match searches millions of resumes in their database and immediately delivers a list of quality candidates whose resumes fit your job description. You can add an Indeed skills test so candidates can show you their skills that go beyond the resume. No wonder Indeed delivers 4 times more hires than all other job sites combined, according to Talent Nest. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
I very much think, based on what Russell Wilson has said and what Seattle hasn't said, that a trade is still in the mix.
I'm told that the Bears